Thank you, Lee, for the introduction there. This is refreshing. I'm going to stand up here. It's refreshing, one, to be speaking to you all today about something that I am very passionate about, attitude, and in a room like this where I can talk about why I have that attitude in the first place, and I'll get to that at the very end. It's also refreshing to not be giving a political speech, and I will not give one here to you all today. For me, there are three things I want you to take away today, really, when you leave this room. One is understanding the opportunity you have, being part of a team, and the power of a positive attitude. When I talk about opportunity, I often will start any presentation and ask, where are you today? Where are you at? And obviously, I'm not just talking about the globe, I'm talking about the world. I am talking about where are you. Oh man, this thing is messed up today. Hold on a sec. I'm talking about where you are physically. You are in Wausau, Wisconsin. It's a beautiful place. Really in the land of opportunity. I mean, where we are at in the United States, we are blessed. We are blessed by the founding of this country. We are blessed by the people who wrote this Constitution that have given us the prosperity that we have here today as Americans. As I have traveled the world in various capacities, I have found that what we have here is very unique and something that we should always cherish. It is a lot different than some of the other parts of the world, as I'm sure many of you in this room have seen and I have seen. In Afghanistan, I witnessed some pretty horrible things, time and time again. One of the saddest days that I remember ever, we were on a patrol just northeast of our base. We were moving through this village, and this little boy came up to the side of my vehicle, going like this with his hand. And I was a little confused at why the boy was doing that, so I turned to one of my soldiers and I say, "Hey, what's he doing? Why is he doing that?" "Well, sir, he just wants a piece of paper and a pencil." Think about that. That little boy just wanted to be able to write something down. He doesn't have the opportunity that our children have here in the United States. That little boy will know nothing more than the 1 mile by 1 mile square that he is born in, will live in, and die. His life expectancy is short. It's harsh. It's brutal. It's sad. When people often come up to me and they say, "Jason, how do I thank a veteran?" Well, I can't speak for every veteran, but I can speak for myself. And I always say, take advantage of the opportunity you have here in the United States. Take advantage of the things that have been given, fought for, bled, and died for you. And that's on multiple levels. That's how you say thanks. That's how you say thanks to me. Because when I see people succeeding, whatever that is, family, business, school, life, it makes everything that I fought for, and I'm sure many others, worth it. And as I stand in front of you today as someone who has lost both legs in combat, I could say I would do it again to see the people succeed in this country. That's an opportunity that doesn't exist everywhere. But let me tell you, when I was in Afghanistan, one of the things that I witnessed even before I was there was teamwork. And see, for me, I had the opportunity here in this country to be part of a couple teams. One, I was in college, I played football, lacrosse, and then the other was being part of the Army. And I'll tell you that for me, football was one of my favorite pastimes. I loved playing it. It was great in high school. We were horrible in college. We were sub 500. I wasn't even that great of a football player. In fact, one of the earlier parts of adversity that I had to deal with was the fact that fullbacks have gone the way of the dinosaur. They're just extinct, all right? And so I had to change positions, and it taught me early on how to adapt and overcome and be a part of a team. I wasn't the captain. I wasn't the quarterback. I wasn't the star of the team. I had an unglorious role. And it taught me at an early time how to know my role. The role I would take on was a lot different. Like so many who graduate college, you go across the stage and you receive a diploma. But the next day for me, I rose my right hand and swore an oath to defend our Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I became a lieutenant in the Army. And in this Army, the battle's a little different. We were no longer fighting large-scale conflict. We were fighting counterinsurgency, which meant a lot of decisions were being made at the platoon leader level. Now I was the quarterback. I went through airborne school and ranger school to give the leadership skills necessary for my platoon in combat. And when we got to Afghanistan, let me tell you, that was not an easy place to be. Every time that we stepped outside the wire, we were in a firefight. Every time something was going wrong. And it took a team to make things happen. I was the platoon leader. I was the airborne ranger. Now I was the quarterback. But we had other guys on this team. We had our weapons squad leader, guy who was from Arkansas, this huge dude, really bulky, massive guy. Played football down there, knew every weapon system in and out, could do everything. Real just, when you think of a tough guy, that's Josh Ruth. All right? Then we had a guy named Brian Pacelli. Brian was the medic. And like a punter in football, you never want to have to call him into the game. Usually, if that's the case, something's going wrong. But we all knew our role on that team, and we went through a lot of trials and tribulations together. But nothing changed my world more than what happened on August 23rd, 2012. My platoon was given the mission to go northeast of our base and stop an enemy movement and shipment of drugs and weapons. When we went into the village that day, it was kind of like a scene from one of those Western movies. You know, the town, the village is deserted, and there's a tumbleweed that kind of rolls through it. It was a ghost town. The Afghan partners we were working with leaked our mission to the Taliban. They knew we were coming. They were setting up an ambush. As we walk into this village, I look behind me and I see wires all over the ground. My men are starting to see that, sir, we're walking in the middle of a minefield. IEDs are all over the place. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here fast. So I tried to think. I'm like, okay, how can we get out of here? And I'm looking beside me and I see a mud wall, probably no higher than, my shoulder here. And this isn't concrete infrastructure. You can hit with a couple shoulders, a couple big old football players. You can hit that thing and knock it over. So I grab a couple of my guys and we start hitting it. Bam, wham, and then boom. My world goes completely dark. When I hit the ground, I come to. I open my eyes. My ears are ringing loud. It's louder than any sound I have ever heard before in my life, just piercing noise. I open my eyes. I'm seeing the dust swirling in front of me, and slowly that piercing noise begins to go down, and I can hear the yelling and screaming of my men. As I roll onto my back and I look down, I realize the legs I had stood on for the first 23 years of my life were no longer there. The bomb had completely severed them off. I was bleeding, and I was bleeding fast. I was in trouble. But like you'd expect, America's finest, my platoon were the heroes that day. That big burly guy I was talking about, Josh, made sure he was making the orders to cordon off the area to prohibit an ambush. And then the guy that you never wanted to call into the game, Brian, came to my aid, put 2 tourniquets on my leg, and stopped me from bleeding to death. Brian did not have a glorious job. It was hard. If you're being called in the game and you're a medic, that's hard. But if Brian didn't know his role and do his job, I wouldn't be here today. I sure wouldn't be standing in front of you. But he knew his role and did his job. There was no one, not a single person on this planet who could have saved me other than Brian that day. That's the man pictured there. We all have different roles in this room. We are all part of different teams. Whether that's in your church, whether it's in your home, whether it's at work, or an organization, you all have different roles. Some of them are the leadership, some of them are glorious, some of them are not. But I will tell you that if everyone does their role, knows their job, you can achieve things that you never thought were possible. They kept me alive. That big burly Josh carried me over the top of grape roads to a helicopter, to safety. My platoon was able to leave Afghanistan, fortunately with no one killed. When you do these things, when you know it, when you accept it, when you push hard, you will achieve things together that you never thought were possible. So whatever that role is, do it to the best of your ability. Your teammates, your coworkers, your families depend on you. But what happened to me in Afghanistan was just the first part of the battle. I had a new one that was being formed, and it was no longer one that was being waged in war, but with myself. I stand in front of you today, and you're like, boy, yeah, Jason, you got a positive attitude. You're really just, hitting it here, and boy, you're great. No, it hasn't been that way. It's been hard. It's been a struggle. I'd be lying to you if I told you every day was sunshine and roses. When I got to Walter Reed, there was a whole new thing going on. I had transportation there. It took me from basically where I was at, lying on the battlefield, to Kandahar, from Kandahar to Germany, to the United States, all on an airplane like this, to the surgery that I was recovering at the ICU, to the 20 surgeries it took to put me back together, fix my arm, and fix my legs. Eventually, what happens is that the doctors and nurses at Walter Reed do everything they can for you. They put you back together. But there's still a decision that has to be made from within. When you go down to the MATSE, which is what I have pictured here, it's the Rehabilitation Center, you see two types of people. You see the go-getters and the quitters. Very early on in my recovery, I met a man by the name of Sergeant Travis Mills. Travis is one of 5 living quadruple amputees from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, missing all 4 limbs. He came into my room with his prosthetic arm, stuck it out, said, "Man, you're going to be just fine." And compared to Travis, I got a paper cut. But see, Travis didn't let what happened to him define who he was. And a positive attitude I found at that moment was infectious. Something that can be spread in a good way. And it's exciting. It's something you see and you can build on it. And it's something that's contagious. And you can feed off each other. We can push each other further. We can get better. We can push through our injuries. We can let them not define us. We can go on trips. We can push through these things. We can do it together. We can fight. But I'll tell you, the opposite, unfortunately, is just as true. There are the people who have called it quits, who, when the bad things in life happen to them, let it become the definition of who they are. And it truly breaks my heart to see someone give up. It really does. But there's no prosthetic for a negative attitude. There's no operation that's going to fix that. The only one who can control that attitude is the owner of that attitude. Many things are going to happen in life. It's going to knock you down. It's going to push you to the ground and ask you, have you had enough? The best thing we can do is to smile back at it push through and know that when you ride through this adversity, when you drive through it, you become someone others look at, others follow, a leader. Take the good with the bad, and you'll be someone that others look for in times of need. But what I really like, and this is normally where, I'll conclude and I'll talk about some other things if I'm talking to an organization or if I'm talking to a school. Let me tell you why I'm really standing here. When I was in a hospital bed at 2 a.m, in pain, crying out, "Why me, God? Why couldn't you have just taken me on the battlefield that day? Why couldn't you have reunited me with my fallen brothers? Instead of having me sit here in a hospital bed in pain, not able to sleep for 72 hours. What is this? What is this misery?" Oh, Jason, you of little faith. Jason, you may have lost your legs, but I've given you a platform to stand on. For me, when I was on the battlefield that day, I remember a feeling of calmness coming over me, even though the blood was leaving my body. And that night, when I was laying there in pain, I was reminded of the soothing fact. I knew that if it was my time to go that day, that I was going to be reunited with our Savior, Jesus. It was calming. It actually allowed me to be a calming influence and leader on my men when I was laying on the ground and couldn't do anything. That wasn't me. That was him. And I wouldn't be standing here and talking with you all, getting through these things. I talk about a power of positive attitude. That doesn't come just from me. We're all capable of that. We all are. But you have to find it from him. Believe in him. Have that rock that you can go to. I know many in this room have been in some bad places for long periods of time. And it's that faith that can get us through anything in the worst of times. It's what inspires me and motivates me every single day. I wake up, roll out of bed, and put my legs on. And I thank God that he kept me on this earth. And certainly didn't listen to my horrible request. With him, you can get through anything. I mean that. You can. And you can become an inspiration for others. We will all go through adversity in life, but with God, all is possible. So, in conclusion, take away the opportunity, teamwork, and dealing with adversity, but understand that I wouldn't be standing here and being able to deliver all three of these things without my faith in Jesus. Thank you again, and thank you for everything, putting this on. I appreciate you all being here. We have a little bit of time, and I love to take questions. No, sorry. Thank you. I love not giving political speeches sometimes. It's great. Yeah, and I just messed Bella. Sorry, I get fired up, and Bella. Sometimes, so Bella is my fiance, and I had her pictured there, but Bella is someone who is obviously she's my fiance, and I met her 3 years ago. I was down in Brazil visiting my Army buddy down there, and he was in Ranger School with me. We were both blown up and hurt in Afghanistan. He was down there studying Portuguese, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come down here? It's Rio de Janeiro, Ipanema Beach. You would know, beautiful place." And so I go down there, and we're sitting there, and we're just enjoying a day on the beach, and this young woman walks by and says, "You have really nice legs." That's a bold statement, I tell you. But that's Bella in a nutshell. And, she, to me, is really a godsend. I mean, obviously, she doesn't make a comment like that if I have my legs. But she's also someone who deals, with some tough things, herself in her life and with her upbringing. And our faith together has helped us and grown us stronger. And obviously, the things that we've endured and are going through, in everything that we do in life, I don't think it's possible. I don't know how people do it without it, to be quite frank with you. Yeah, Lee.
I was just going to say, could you talk a little bit about Beyond Bella, as far as we talked about at the beginning here, the Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
Who's your Band of Brothers today?
Yeah, do you mind if I grab a glass of water?
No.
All right. Oh, thanks, Phil.
I'm fighting a cold. You don't
Oh, yeah. Huh. All right. So for me, obviously, I've been very fortunate in my life to have a lot of bands of different brothers, whether it's been brothers through my time playing sports or in the Army. There's people that I know I have, that I can talk about my faith with. And for me, it's very important. I think that that's one thing that's getting lost in society right now is that bond and brotherhood. It's being eroded a little bit by the things that are going on in this world. And it's something that we as men need to nurture and quite frankly, put a lot more emphasis on. It's hard. I mean, when we talk about guys in my platoon, we were in one of the harshest places in Afghanistan, and things we've experienced there together, that's a hard thing, and you got to sometimes be able to talk about it. And the beauty of technology today, while there's pros and cons to it, is the fact that he can send me a message pretty quickly. When my guys can say, "Hey, Jason, I'm hurting today," or "What's going on?" And one of our friends from our company, not our platoon, but company. So sorry for getting all the military stuff messed up with the lingo, but he committed suicide a couple weeks ago, in our company. And I hit a lot of guys, so he's, they're calling me and chatting with me. That's hard. It's hard stuff to go through, and like I said, I don't know how people do it without faith, but when I talk to some of my brothers in arms, some are men of faith, some aren't, but I share with them that a lot of these struggles, when you put the burden on yourself and you shoulder it all yourself, you're never going to be able to carry the weight. It's impossible. I don't know how you do it. So for me, it's a way of sharing the message by saying, hey, look, through Christ and God, there are ways of being able to lift that heavy, heavy rucksack that you're pulling on your back. And that for me is through my brotherhood. Yeah.
Jason, thank you for your service. You're a true inspiration to me and to so many other people. Thank you so much. What you do takes great courage. I wanted to ask, in our culture, there is a real effort to get God out of our culture. And I don't have all the answers on that, but I know it's an ever-present threat to our existence. What are your thoughts on that, and how can we infuse God back into our system and into our culture and fight? I'm thinking of the schools, and other things like that are drivers of kind of the anti-culture that is out there. And I don't want to. I don't know. I'm kind of asking you something political here. I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry, but it's relevant because we're supposed to fight for God in different ways. And I know just by being who you are, you're doing that. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's no lie that there are parts of our culture right now that are under attack. I mean, you're not lying when you make that statement, and I don't think it's a political one to make here. The political thing would be, okay, how do you do that? Now, in my personal life, outside of any official capacity, I talk about my faith when I'm asked about it, and I spread about it. And when people, when we're in rooms like this, we need to make sure that we're comfortable talking with each other about that. The big thing that I see going on, though, is really a breakdown in family values in our country. And I think that's something that, so I'm trying not to get political. I grew up in a household that emphasized good values, okay? And for me, when I see the breakdown a little bit in society, I think that starts at the home a little bit. And I think some of that's been trying to drive faith away from this, and basically saying that other parts of our society should be taking the lead role in those areas, and I disagree with that. That's me trying to not be political here, okay? You gave me a very politically loaded question, and I'm trying to steer away from it. But I get where you're coming from, and I agree with you, okay? Yeah.
One of the predominant things that I've seen, having both my sons participating in military activities over in the sandboxes. My youngest son is 100% disabled with PTSD, and what he faced is the same thing that you're talking about in terms of his band of brothers diminishing over time because they've left this world by their own hand.
Yeah.
And for him, that's very difficult to deal with because it's like losing a buddy on the battlefield. And for him, you develop that guilt complex.
Yes.
Why him and not me? Why am I still here? And he's gone.
It's the same guilt complex that happens sometimes with medics too. For example, well, I kept him alive, but he's maimed.
I think one of the things that we can do as a group is to be constantly aware that suicide is prevalent in those that have had the experiences that you're talking about. And that we need to be aware of that, and we need to be able to help direct those individuals to where they can get help with that. And sometimes it's just sitting down and listening and not saying anything.
Well, I think that what you're hitting on is a great point. There, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating, and obviously, I think we're getting better at society of recognizing the issues that happen from conflict and trying to address the wounds that happen. But I think that always we can do better, and I think it's important, certainly as men of faith, to be able to share that, certainly with people who are struggling, because, I can talk about, I can, in the political world, I can say, well, we're going to put more money in mental health, and we're going to do this, but I'm going to tell you all in this room that we need to insert faith back into this. Okay, because that is a part that is missing, and that we as society and as believers need to help correct, because it's a struggle. If someone's taken their life, and the brothers that I've known who have, it's been that struggle.
And part of what he deals with as well is being a Christian and going into this environment and doing the kinds of things that you end up having to do. He's lost his faith. And working with him to try to get that faith back is a very difficult and long
It's hard.
trail. Yeah.
Never stop trying.
No.
Yeah.
Stuff happens to us, as Christians. You have a disabled child, or you lose
Yeah.
a child. It's like 80 to 90% of evangelical Christians sink, right? Like his son did.
Yeah.
I just think, you could say it better than I can, but you got to keep your head on a swivel. The Good Samaritan had a regular job. He only had a little bit, gave the guy some money, somebody else. Keep your head on the swivel to look how and where to help somebody prayerfully, and you might not be able to focus on the spiritual stuff right away, but get at it and help wherever you can. Does that make sense to you? Or you can say it better than I can?
Well, right. It's in the military we call it situational awareness. You might have the situational awareness around you of maybe people that are struggling, to be able to help them with whatever you can, certainly as a man of faith, but also to make sure that they're on the right foot so that they can come in step with Christ as well. Because at the end of the day, I mean, without that, what do you got? And I think that for us, it's important, like you said, to keep your head on a swivel. And really, a lot of it comes, and this is something that Bella works with me a lot on. She says to me, she's like, you have to have more empathy. Understand where people are coming from in some of these areas. That doesn't necessarily mean that you give them everything. It doesn't necessarily mean you're coddling them. Just understand and see where they're coming from in some area so that you can better assist or correct the situation. Sometimes I get into my military mode and I'm just... Anyone over here?
We feel like we have to solve the problem, and sometimes it's just a matter of giving them an opportunity to share the problem. Because we can't fix it.
Yeah.
But we can't empathize with it, we can't help them.
Anyone else? Well, if not, again, thank you. Thank you for your time. Really hope that you could take something away from the message that I've given today, and really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you again.